All right, so in the spirit of talking about, the things that I believe really helped us get where we're at today, 2 years in, accomplishing the goals that we set out to accomplish. I think you can't really ask for more than that. People kind of ask me, like, how y'all doing? And I'm like, well, if I tell you numbers, you're not going to understand it. So the best way for me to kind of tell you whether we're on track or not, we hit the goal that we set out to accomplish. And we doubled what we did last year. So, I mean, like, in an economy that's not great in 2024, I think that says a lot. And we talked a lot about humility as being a part of that foundation, how we got here. But I think that's something else that businesses don't see clearly, and the ideas may make a lot of sense in theory, but having a true operating system that you follow, and it doesn't have to be from a specific book or a theory or some, idea or guru that presents it to you. It's a way of consistently staying on top of your business and holding the team accountable to the goals you've set. It's truly what an operating system is, and then the value system that you have too. And so I think that whenever I talk to people about it, people still don't understand it. Like, even people who are coaching people in business, like they don't even have a true operating system. Like, I can just show them our meeting pulse, and they're like, what is that? And like, I'm like, that's just a small, that's the bottom of the funnel, right? Like, you've got to have the planning and the value system and the buy-in and the accountability in order for you to even have that type of meeting. And you have to have your people understand it. And so I don't think that there's a question in my mind that our small business that we've started 2 years ago would not be where it's at today if we hadn't had experiences with operating systems in the past from where y'all have come from and y'all's history growing other businesses that y'all were working with, and from our experience where we came from, where an operating system implemented that did what it was supposed to. It pushed out people that weren't fitting within the culture of the system in which was operating within that business, which is great. It's how it's supposed to work. But I think that we all bought into the same operating system, and we wanted to implement, and we're still developing it. There's no doubt we're working on it. We're not pros at it, but just having a system in general, I think, is 100% a factor in allowing us to have accomplished the things that we've set out to accomplish.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, particularly for someone who has a difficult time staying organized, right? And that I tend to just envision accomplishing the thing, right, the goal, without the details, right? And so, just from a personal level, it helps without a doubt on accountability and organization. But just on a general business level, what we're dealing with are businesses, an LLC is only an LLC because we all agree that it's an LLC, right? I mean, let's be honest. So, and yeah, there's rules that govern that, all that good stuff. But
IRS confirms it.
Yeah, right. And so it is a person, it is a juridical person, right, that has a sense of health that has to be observed and maintained, and it has to grow, and you got to feed it. You got to know what to feed it, and you got to know which synapses are connecting and which ones are not. And so it's just like it's the way to render those intangibles tangible.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely gluten-free.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's sensitive.
It's a meat diet, sister.
Carnivore.
yeah.
Little watermelon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of protein.
But
right?
in Lauren's quote that she always says is discipline equals freedom, and you're not going to be always motivated. And an operating system, it allows you to not be motivated if you follow the system and continue to do what you set out to do. Because we're not motivated when we look at our numbers every Monday, but it's a complete reminder of, are you going to get where you're going? Yes or no? Look at the numbers. It's right there. And our meeting pulse every week allows everybody to know that.
Yeah.
And so there's that piece of it. Again, it's just such a small piece that you show people and they're impressed just because of that. But all the other parts of the system that have to play together for you to get to there, they always talk about keeping things simple. It is a simple thing. That's hard to do. And you got to be disciplined, and it's 100% necessary for you to get where you're going. It's hard if you put all the pieces together and they all the cookie crumbs all get to where you're trying to go. If you follow each one of those crumbs and you do the same things over and over again, and you have discipline to follow the system consistently, you're going to get to the end. Might not take you a little longer than you expected. You might get there faster. You never know, depending on a lot of outside factors. But the only thing that is consistent and constant, if you follow an operating system, you're going to have a lot better chance of getting where you're going than if you don't.
Yeah.
And I think that we do a great job of implementing a system. It's funny because y'all see other businesses, and I mean, we've seen other businesses too. And even successful businesses don't have an operating system.
Yeah.
How much more successful could they be if they had
jobs.
one?
Yeah. Oh, it's insane. I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, I think a few things. I'll talk about like small businesses in general because that's what we deal with in our community that we're impacting. But if I were to break down what an operating system is, it is simply a unified vision, right? And that makes sure everybody's going in the same direction for the same reasons and doing it in the same manner. And then it's a system of the same language when you're speaking the same language. And that's where, you know, like you mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be one particular book or one guru or one system. They all boil down to the same principles. The significance is you have adopted a single language so that everybody's speaking it and moving in that direction. That's all it simply comes down to. What you do in between, you know, that's your own unique flair and personality that you put on it, which is why, you know, when I say I'm helping someone implement an operating system, theirs is going to look a little bit different because their personality and their flair and their culture is going to be a factor of that. The amount of leaders that they have. We are blessed in that we have, you know, everybody knows we operate with the disc wheel. We cover the entire disc between the four of us. I don't think people understand how rare that is. They have so many organizations where their founders, owners, leaders do not encompass that whole chart. And so if you're not actively seeking those complementary personalities to round out that communication channel, then you're also not going to be successful in that same manner, right? And then boiling that back down to what I always say is Main Street USA, not Wall Street USA, right? We're Main Street small businesses. These businesses are crazy successful for years. And then all of a sudden they're getting towards retirement, which is happening a lot right now. Like America is about to have the largest transition of wealth because of who's going to pass on and where these businesses are going to transfer that we've ever really seen. And these successful individuals don't realize they've had a job because they haven't had an operating system. So they haven't built a business and a true legacy that they can pass on. And so we're sitting here and I'm nervous for our community that if we don't step in and help them implement an operating system so they have something tangible that they can pass on and teach to somebody else, that our community is going to lose that business. And as being Small Business USA, like that's how our community operates on these trades that these wonderful people or these products that these small business owners have made for generations. So it's almost like, you know, I want to scream it from the rooftops that like we're here to help you so that we can continue to thrive and you can continue to scale. Because you're right, they would be crazy more successful if they understood those elements of leverage. And sometimes it's limited mindset, like we talked about with humility, that you have to break through and understand and have a level of comfort of that type of growth. But sometimes you're not doing it for growth. You're doing it for peace or for balance. Sometimes people want an operating system not because they want their balance sheet to look different or their P&L to look different. They simply want better work-life balance because they're transitioning in some way. They've had a major health incident, whatever it may be. So like there's just so many benefits on people speaking the same language, moving in one direction. And that's a force and a synergy that you can't stop. So you're almost guaranteed success if you're on that train.
I think it says a lot that we were able to run our own operating system. So when we're teaching businesses how to grow and scale, it's not like we're like teaching in theory. A lot of people and coaches will come out and they teach in theory, not having actually done it. And I mean, like we're still learning. I mean, like not to like sugarcoat that we are not completely trying to learn. The direct example is us talking about 90-day rocks for 2 years and the four of us not having a ton of clarity on that and training each other on how to be able to understand that concept more. And we're doing that right now, 2 years in, still having to break down a clear understanding of what it means to have a 90-day quarterly goal that's going to help you get to your annual goal that helps you get to what you set out for 10 years that you all come together whenever you're creating this big idea to accomplish, right? And so we're
if you sit in the two different company meetings, they handle rocks differently in each one of their meetings based on the type of personalities that you have in each one. So, I mean, that's part of like building the system that supports for the people that you hire as well.
But it's the same language.
Same language.
Yeah, for sure. And it's I think that again, the testament to the operating system concept in general that maybe and it's hard to like to tell people like what that actually means until you actually see it. And so like part of our value to the community, it's like how do we teach people what operating systems are so that they can see the light and feel like they can implement something similar for themselves, whatever that may mean. It's like this business seminar that we're going to be doing in 2025. I really want the concept and ideas around scaling, and I want to use our example of the 2 years of what it takes in order to even think about an operating system. We're like, if in my opinion, we're like 30% to where we're like running a real operating system. I mean, like we're not sprinting. We're still carrying a sandbag on our back trying to run because we're not running our operating system efficiently, and we're learning and growing. And I think that next year is going to be a huge opportunity for us because we're going to be better at our quarterly rocks because we're working on that right now.
And our people are going to be better because they're going to have a better understanding because they have to hear it over and over again and understand that we don't want employees to show up and just punch the clock and work. Like, we want them to be part of what we're building, speaking the language and understanding what we're doing. That's a transition in and of itself for the employees that you hire. And as we get new people, it's always that challenge of onboarding them. Like, girl, come on the bus. Here's your ticket. Like,
And how much of a relief is it for somebody to work for a law firm or a business and know that they can walk in and say, okay, here's clear expectations around what to do, because part of our operating system is to give you clear expectations about what our values are, what our purpose is, where we're trying to go, how you fit into it based on our accountability structure, and what the expectations are that you're going to sign and look at on day one to know that this is what we expect you to do. And oh, by the way, if your job changes, part of our system is you're going to come back and re-sign this. And we've had people come back and re-sign it over the 2-year period where we take the good to great concept and don't put people on this one seat and hold them accountable to that seat forever if that's not where they need to be. We're not going to fire you if you're a right culture fit until we've given you shots to sit in other seats on the bus that may be better fit for you. We've moved people around quickly sometimes. And, that's all a part of our system. And it's not like, we are still, again, operating at what I think is a very, small percentage of what we could be operating at if we actually ran a system efficiently. But we all talked about it, and it's part of our plan and our system is to make sure that people are on the right seat. So our operating system, again, hands down, and trying to implement an operating system and knowing how valuable that is and making that the forefront of our business and working on that part of our business, not always in it, I think has helped us.
Oh, I mean, tremendously. Can you think of imagine Jim, he walks out of his house, he walks down the same sidewalk every day to get his coffee and goes back home. And then one day he goes and there's the mail van or the mail car ran up accidentally onto the sidewalk and he just is stuck there. What now? Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, if I woke up every morning and literally thought, I have no idea what's going to happen at work, or I have like a barely bit of an idea, and it's already a very stressful, high-paced thing at times. Owning a business is period. Working professionally, particularly in the service industry, can be.
And we go fast.
And you got to go fast, right? And so, there's a tremendous level of anxiety that's relieved when you can set things articulately, track things articulately, know that the person on your team or the people on your team have their hands on what they need to have their hands on, and they know how to do it. And if they don't, they've got something that they can look at to help them through that. It's just doing it without it, doing and running a business without an operating system is such it just thinking about it gives me heartburn right now.
It seems crazy. Once you've experienced it, you're just like, well, then how does it work?
Yeah.
Well,
you see people just out there doing it.
Just doing it.
The main two reasons I hear from business owners about why they don't have one is, one, they're too far gone. They don't have time to stop and set this up. There's no time.
No hard stop.
And then the other is the expense that comes along with it. And so if you're, for businesses that are just starting, now is the time. Like, you don't wait until you have 10 employees. You start with it. It's you by yourself. You set it up, and then you have room for the people to join in as you increase your workforce. But as for cost, I mean, it's a great investment.
Yeah, and I must say, we are probably the most affordable option there is out there.
And I love talking about it. Like, when I go to sell Lauren's services to people, I know exactly what she does because we do it. And so I'll sit there and say, and I'm like, you have to pay for this. I could sit here and do this all day, and I wish I could for free with everybody because I believe in it so much. But you do have to pay for it.
And it's crazy that I know I had this idea when I was growing up that you would look at every adult and be like, yeah, every adult's like got their shit together, right?
Oh wow.
And then you look and you get your grown up, you're like, nobody's got their stuff together. Yeah. And then you like look at business owners, you look up to those people and you're like, that person had a business their whole life, and then you actually interact with the business and you're like, it's obviously a little bit different than what I perceived. And then you like actually operate a business that has an operating system, or at least is trying to be better at operating in their business. And you're like, man, nobody has this in place. And when you start talking about it, they're like excited about it. And then you start helping them try to do it. And none of them take action because
Right.
it's not freaking
not
easy.
willing, yeah.
It's hard. And you got to have, and the hardest thing is if you don't buy into it 100%, you're going to get pushback from everybody around you. I mean, we'll bring people in that still give us pushback on it. People that are with us that still don't understand it. And they've been with us since we started. And that whole idea is difficult sometimes because you're constantly having to, we have to all feel so bought into it that we know that no matter what, with the four of us as owners and partners, and we talked about the humility before, but also all being bought into the operating system and knowing how each one of us are a key part in that, to be knowing that they each are not going to bail on this, that we can double down and that they're going to teach their individual arms of the company that. It's, again, the only way you can go faster and be in your lane and do what you need to do, because you don't have to be going back and like cleaning up something that you all agree to, one of the four of us are not really bought into.
Yeah.
And when you're out in the community and you're talking to other business owners and they're like, start talking about their operating system, you're like, okay.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah.
Like, there's like a little level of trust
You're on
there.
the club.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's funny because you do that and like you talk with some businesses and you clearly can see that they have it together. Like we had a conversation and actually a podcast that dropped today with one of our financial advisor clients. They do it really well. Like they have an operating system, and I'm sure that they would say they're not perfect, but they implement something and they're growing and one of the most successful wealth management companies in the state. And then some businesses that say they do it and they like the idea and the theory behind it, but they don't actually implement it because it's hard. It's freaking, there's no doubt that it's hard. That even us, our priorities are very clear based on our operating system. It's hard to not have the emails and the phone calls and the things that come up that don't derail you and the emotions at home or whatever you have going on. I mean, it's hard. It's freaking hard. But, it is the relief of knowing that it exists that allows you to
Exactly.
continue to keep going.
Right. And it's also, it's like, look, technology has come far too far to deny the easy access to it, right? That it exists, at least to have very fundamental instruments available that can help you build and maintain and operate the system.
And also be the disruptor by emails constantly coming.
Yeah. Well, and so I mean, but think about it in terms of like particularly professional sports and how the technology, granted it existed long beforehand, but math and algorithmic math and and crunching data, right, runs these companies and the productivity of their product, right, on their teams. I mean, right. I mean, that's what we're all dealing with. We all have the opportunity to be able to do that. And so it is, you can't just listen to the scouts who want to see how many, dumbbells old Jackie Bob can lift, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, all right, well, where, what's his on base percentage?
Yeah. Well, the quote that sticks out to me when you say that is, the two quotes. One is that Jim Carrey talked about how he wrote that $1 million check to himself. And he said, I couldn't just eat a sandwich. I had to actually go and take action, right? Like, you can write the check or create the operating system, but unless you're going to implement it, it's not going to turn into anything.
Yeah.
And then the second thing about your operating system and another hard part about it, but also when you give yourself the grace to not think that it's got to be in line, like the people that don't take action, they constantly are waiting for a thing to be perfect or ready before they take action. It's that when you understand that your operating system constantly has to develop and grow as your company is growing, you never feel like you've got to have everything completely understood or ready before you take the first step. It's
great point.
Yeah, the habits you have that got you to where you're at today are not going to be the habits that are going to take you to the next level. So you've constantly kind of be refining and recreating your operating system. So when you get to 100%, then if you think of it from that standpoint, then you're not going to grow anymore because it has gotten you where you're at. In order for you to take the next step, you got to change it a little bit and become better. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the operating system is huge and development of that and our continued desire to develop it is what's going to allow us to then double our business again next year, which is our goal for next year.
Yep.